What's up, everybody? My name is Kiefer, and Palworld is being sued by Nintendo. Now, there's been a lot of conversation since the game came out about copyright infringement. Lucario and Anubis being the most obvious example, Palworld clearly took a lot of design inspiration from Pokemon when creating a lot of their pals. However, I've never really been of the opinion that it seems like they were directly ripping models. Like, obviously this is based off of this, there's zero question about that, but the similarities aren't enough unless if there's actual, like proportional lineups within the model, that I don't think I've never thought that it was actually copyright infringement. But Nintendo is now suing Palworld over patent infringement, and so Pocket Pair has responded. And they said, regarding the lawsuit, yesterday a lawsuit was filed against our company for patent infringement. We have received notice of this lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. Pocket Pair is a small indie game company based in Tokyo. Our goal as a company has always been to create fun games. We will continue to pursue this goal because we know that our games bring joy to millions of gamers around the world. Palworld was a surprise success this year, both for gamers and for us. We were blown away by the amazing response to the game, and we have been working hard to make it even better for our fans. We will be continuing to improve Palworld and strive to create a game that our fans can be proud of. It is truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do our utmost for our fans and to ensure that our indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort that this news has caused. Anyways, thank you for your continued support of Palworld and Pocket Pair. And so, as you can see, this has received quite a bit of attention, and generally the consensus that I've seen is in the West, especially in the US, everybody is on Pocket Pair's side. Nintendo already has a bad rep for copyright striking Smash tournaments, for like adding rules, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think any company should have that much power that if there's an officially licensed tournament of your game, that you're allowed to say, no, you can't change this rule. We're now shutting down your tournament. That's actually like crazy. And so in the West, most of the support is for Palworld. However, in Japan, I think it seems like it's leaning a bit in the opposite direction, where a lot of the support is for Nintendo. Now, as you can see in this IGN article here, a couple years ago, Pokemon filed a couple new patents for catching Pokemon in 3D games. Now, the issue here is we could go through the whole thing, and there are people who have, but basically the patent is saying you aim your character at the target, and then you throw a spherical object at the target, and then based on certain factors, it will catch that creature. The problem is, I don't understand how this can be patented. Well, that's not actually the problem. This can't really be patented. This is way too broad. This is how you would aim anything with any throwing mechanic, right? This is a little bit of a ridiculous thing to create a patent for. The issue is that Nintendo has done things like this before. Nintendo, their plan here, more than likely, is going to be to force Pocket Pair into a settlement. They're going to try and push them into a really long litigation that's going to bleed them for money, force them into a settlement, and that settlement will probably benefit Nintendo, and even if it doesn't, it'll be wrapped up under NDAs, and so Nintendo will be able to make themselves look like they came out on top. This is an issue for more than just people who like Palworld. Like, frankly, even if you're a Nintendo and Pokemon fan, this is still kind of an issue for you. I mean, I guess unless if you exclusively play Nintendo games, but this sets the precedent that major corporations should just patent everything, right? And then they can just own the whole game industry, because anytime any indie studio makes a game, they can just sue them, force them into a drawn out litigation, bleed them for their money, and then force them into a settlement. regardless of whether or not the patent holds up, frankly, doesn't really matter. And so that's really where the whole problem is.
Palworld, when it came out, everyone compared it to Pokemon. I called it Pokemon with guns.
Everybody called it Pokemon with guns.
It was one of the biggest games to launch of the year. Well, one of the biggest games to launch in general on Steam. So it's not like a game that flew under the radar. Nintendo would have been alerted to it. They did make some posts back when Palworld was popping off that they will do anything they can to protect their copyright. And they also announced that they were going to be investigating, but a lot of time passed, tumbleweeds started to blow through, there was cobwebs on the story, nothing came from it, so I started to assume that maybe they didn't find anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Legal ground to pursue Palworld over. But it turns out that was wrong. Instead, they spent all this time charging their alt. So now Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have jointly filed against the company behind Palworld, Pocket Pair. I and many others really liked Palworld because for the first time in at least
I still love this game.
Felt fresh.
Yeah.
Nintendo's just let Pokemon get super stale and recycled.
And not only did it feel fresh for a Pokemon game, but it felt fresh for like a survival crafting game too.
And somehow they can't
like it actually innovated on things.
Like the newest one, Scarlet and Violet, was a fucking mess. That game looks worse than some of the Pokemon games that came before it. It's when you continuously like download a JPEG and it ends up looking like some kind of fucking cursed images from one of the circles of hell. That's kind of what Pokemon's become.
Yeah.
It is just the same game regurgitated endlessly, and even
and it like to a worse degree than like sports games or COD. I'd say that both Call of Duty and like FIFA and Madden are more innovative than the Pokemon series has been.
It's what Serkan Toto called it, cold-blooded business. Now, he runs a game consultancy firm in Japan. He is absolutely seen as a regional expert. He knows what he's talking about, and worse, for Palworld developer Pocket Pair, he thinks Nintendo will win. Now, I get it.
Nintendo, keep in mind, Nintendo has a 100% success rate of winning litigation that they have initiated.
And like that's the problem. They're so scary because they have so much money. The only companies they could like even really stand up to Nintendo are what, like Apple and Disney. Like I'm sure there's a bunch of other media companies that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head, but you get the point. Unless you're a $1 billion company, it doesn't matter whether or not Nintendo's right or wrong, because they have the money that they can just outlast you.
I don't play creature collectors. This doesn't matter to me. Well, the bad news is it does. This is a direct threat to what we all enjoy. It is a threat against the entire industry. And if past predicts future, Nintendo will almost certainly win because their domestic litigation track record is legendary. I'm sure.
Now, the difference is usually when something like this happens with Nintendo, it's a small studio and a small game. This time, it's a small studio, but with a decently sized big game. So, while I do think that it's likely for Nintendo to win, there is a real possibility this time that things could go differently.
404 Media spoke to Dr. Toto, and it turns out, to his memory, Nintendo have never lost a litigation that they started.
Yeah.
Man. That's scary. That's really fucking scary.
It is scary, and it's crazy that it's something that's even allowed to happen. Like it's wild that like we have I don't know what you call it after a duopoly, but like all of these industries just have titans sitting at the top that can just lean down and flick somebody out of the way if they don't like them. And it's crazy that we've allowed things to escalate to this point.
We're all thinking the same thing. Did Pocket Pair yoink something? Did they rip a model from Pokemon? Did they kit bash using models from Pokemon? Allegations to that effect were all over the internet.
Abso-fucking-lutely they did, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well,
they copied.
Yeah, they copied the design, but Did I mishear? Is that what he said? I thought he said rip the models.
Yoink something. Did they rip a model from Pokemon?
Yeah.
Did they kick bash using models from Pokemon?
Yeah. So that's a different thing. Asmon's Gold is wrong here. They didn't do that, because if they did, Nintendo absolutely would have sued them for Well, they more than likely would have sued them for copyright infringement, because that's a pretty cut and dry win, right? If Palworld like directly yoinked models from a Pokemon game and then used that, even if they used it to kit bash new pals, like that's absolutely copyright infringement, and Nintendo would win that instantly, because there's no question, and that's something that's super easy to prove. And so no, I think actually, in fact, it's 100% sure that they didn't rip any models. They absolutely like took designs. There's no question. You're insane if you think they didn't take the designs, but they didn't rip the models, and that's actually what matters a lot more, because the designs, like I said earlier, Anubis and Lucario are the worst ones, but they don't like actually look the same, right? Like there's no version of reality where you look at those two side by side and you can't differentiate them, right? And so there's enough of a difference that it's very, very clearly taking inspiration, right? Like with Cremus and Eevee down here, but taking inspiration isn't a violation of copyright. Ripping out models and then using proportions and pieces from those models is a violation of copyright, and so I think Nintendo would have crushed them for that immediately right off rip. Like, I don't think we'd even have gotten to this point. And so the fact that they are suing for patent violations, more than likely for patents that they've applied in the past couple years, I'm thinking that it's pretty safe to say that there was no model ripping, no.
Fucking lootly they did with.
No, they took the designs, not the models.
The thing is that they're not even getting sued for that. You would have to be absolutely out of your fucking mind to think that Anubis and Lucario are not the exact same thing.
They're not the same model, though. That's why they're not getting sued for that. They're absolutely the same design, for sure.
Company released their statement, and they basically said, you cannot in any way, and this is a quote, accidentally get the same proportions on multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least, tracing them meticulously first.
It was proven that this was not the case, but the point still stands.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's what I'm saying. So the point definitely stands. They absolutely took the designs, but I mean, why would Nintendo have waited until now? If Nintendo was able to get them for copyright, they would have blasted them for copyright the second the game was announced, right? Because that's what happened in the mod. If you remember back like the second week that this game came out, there was a modder who made a Pokemon mod for Palworld, which turned all of the pals into Pokemon, and within like 2 days of that mod being announced, Nintendo DMCA'd them. And so, yeah, there's definitely not any actual ripping. They did definitely take designs, though. There's no question about that. And to be clear, I don't think they did it in a way that's problematic. I think it's different enough that I don't think that you can say that they like actually stole Pokemon. Like I don't have any issues with the designs of Pals and Palworld.
Gun that proved that Palworld stole the models. That proof was then disproven. So all you can do is look at the two of them. Anubis is an Egyptian god. Yeah, it's the god of death.
No, we don't need to have a conversation about this. They definitely took the designs, there's no question.
And they've done easy things like knocking out these Pokemon clones from China, but more recently, we have a scary story. They won $30 million suing Colopil over patent infringement.
Yeah, this is the Colopil is the game I was talking about earlier, where they sued for patent infringement. And even though the patents that they were suing for don't really hold up, it doesn't matter because they were able to force them into a settlement.
We're dealing with here. But what's spooky is the specific patents and how that litigation went down. And this is almost certainly, I believe, what they'll do to Pocket Pair because it seems like it's their playbook. They try to get them in patents. Here's a few of them. Quote, the special technology used to operate a joystick over a touch panel. Another one is
So
a confirmation
stupid.
screen appearing whenever you resume a game from sleep mode.
Yeah, like that's absolutely ridiculous and so clearly patents that don't hold up. A confirmation after a pause screen is not something that you can patent. A virtual joystick is not something that you can patent. That's like brain damaged, right? But it doesn't matter because they have so much money and so much resources, and no one else does.
What the fuck?
After Toto summed up the others,
What
he said
the
this,
hell
quote,
is go-
and they have 5 other
It's
ones, including one for
diabolical.
isometric,
Yes.
pseudo, 3D games, when the
Where the character is hidden behind a tree, the game forms the shadows, so you have kind of a sense of where the character is, even though you don't see the character clearly.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't even think that's something that Nintendo originally did. That other games have done that. Movies do that. That's literally like a common way to shoot movie scenes.
Nintendo has a patent on that, and this game uses that technology. Oh my god.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy.
Nintendo should patent gravity in games too. Before
Literally. Like, actually.
Why don't they just patent trees? Yeah, I mean, like, let's cut out the middleman. Let's patent a tree.
Patent the
itself.
whole
You
fucking
see
tree.
a tree in another game. Well, okay, well, fucking shut them down.
Bro, don't give them any ideas.
where your character
They'll do that shit.
don't see your character clearly. Do you know
Terrence
what's really
Howard
funny?
level
World
patents.
of Warcraft just added that. So many games have that.
Uh-oh.
Playing an isometric game, you walk behind the wall.
Dude, it's not gonna happen because they're not that stupid, but I would love to see Nintendo go up against Microsoft and Blizzard by suing World of Warcraft for having that mechanic in their game. That would be so funny.
I want to be clear. Every game developer should be against this. And I know
Yeah,
that within the
100%.
I think that Pocket Pair are, in a way, creative hacks who couldn't even bother making their own in-universe version of a gun.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because, like, once this happens, every other massive scumming game company for every other genre, like, after this happens, what's stopping MiHoYo from doing something like this? Right? And Hoyo has a fuck ton of money, right? Like, Genshin, even now, is still printing money, and now with Honkai and ZZZ, and so this is a terrible precedent to set. This is a terrible thing for the entirety of the games industry. Regardless of your thoughts on Palworld.
Or an AR from an asset store and slapped it onto a pocket monster.
Yeah, they
But
did.
that doesn't actually matter.
And I mean, frankly, that doesn't even, like, I don't care if you created your own gun models. All I give a shit about is if your game is fun. Like, at the end of the day, that's what matters. If you make a fun game, I'm gonna play it. I don't care if every single one of your models came from an asset store. If your game is fun, I will play it.
It is common understanding the game mechanics cannot be copyrighted. Exact implementation can be, but not in broad strokes. You can't go and patent the Metroidvania format. I mean, we used to call
But they would try to. That's the problem.
Yeah, imagine, like, patenting horror games and jump scares.
This is the issue, is that that's what you're really fighting against. You're fighting against people that are going to effectively try to gather up. It's kind of like, here's a really good example, right? Is like in America, I don't know if, like, obviously a lot of people watch that aren't just in the US, but in the US here, we have like a really big problem with housing because
Because companies are buying them up, and then the rest of the companies, so we have real estate here in the US. We have real estate companies which are just buying up housing and jacking up the price. Not only that, we have corporations that are buying up housing and turning them into Airbnbs because they can.
Housing in mass and then raising the prices on all of the houses.
Yeah.
And so what's ending up happening is that now you have people that can't afford to buy a new home because almost all of the homes are being purchased by these like large real estate companies or even large investment companies that just look at real estate as a vehicle of investment. So what's going to end up happening is that games are going to go the same direction. Is you're going to see game companies that are trying to, now it's no longer about how to create a good experience. It's about how to not overstep on some sort of like other grounds that some company already owns.
And that's why it feels like AAA games are in such a bad state, right? Like that's why there's such a discourse about like why games are dying, why games feel bad, why games suck. Games don't suck. AAA games suck because they're slowly making this shift into non-games, right? They're turning into storefronts, and they're turning into like Asmongold said, they're turning into vehicles for investment, right? And then we see things like games getting canceled for tax benefits, all of that kind of shit. The AAA gaming sphere has turned into just this dumpster fire of not really games. Like it's just kind of a weird offshoot of the software industry at this point. Indie games are fucking great right now, right? And that's exactly why Nintendo's suing Palworld, right? Because one side of the industry is in a great place. The other side of the industry is not making games.
The idea of a first-person shooter is not something that id could go and copyright, but specific mechanics, well, those can be patented. And that's because copyright protects the usage of the things that you've designed or wrote, and patents are designed to protect mechanical inventions or
functionalities.
Processes. The whole point there being that if you actually make an innovation, the patent system protects your ability to exploit that, and in doing so, it creates a financial incentive for people to
be
innovate.
innovative. Yeah.
And that's kind of the double-edged sword that we've ended up here with, because on the one hand, we need patents because it does encourage developers to innovate and to create new systems and new mechanics and new genres. On the other hand, it opens up this weird doorway for these massive conglomerates to monopolize the entire industry in the form of patents, and then forcing every small company out. And it's frankly really disgusting.
The thing is, though, if a patent is too broad, it can become impossible to reproduce.
And this is the problem, right? Is like you need to have patents to an extent, but the issue is that
there needs to be some amount of there needs to be some amount of regulation, because Nintendo is clearly exploiting the system
by making a patent broad enough to where they can effectively stop other people from competing with them. And that's the issue. Yeah, he brings up Nemesis. Well, Nemesis is an example, but this happens inside of all industries. Like, patent trolling didn't get invented with video games.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, video games...
Yeah, it's just that video games is like one of the newer industries, and so it's just slowly rolling towards that.
It's been like this for a long time.
Without infringement. And that's where broad patents are a problem. And this hurts you. I would actually say it has hurt you. You just don't know it because we cannot see.
Very great argument. Extremely great argument is that...
Yeah, the games... We don't know what games have gotten shut down, that don't exist, that we haven't gotten to play because they got choked out, or because they were scared out of... The developers were scared out of even attempting them because the patents in that field are just too broad.
And types of funding and innovation that we don't get to take advantage of because companies hold the patents on them, and they're being used as a way to suppress innovation.
Exactly.
Yep. Very good point.
Not taken. The Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis
this is the best example.
This is the example that people always use, and it's genuinely like really frustrating.
Emergent gameplay within that game that actually saw people forgetting about the core progression and just having fun in the sandbox settling scores with orcs. It was fun, it was dynamic, and it was a relationship with our enemies in the game that was actually player driven. But Warner Bros. Patented it. And thus far, nobody has got past that patent. And that means that one of the 2010's greatest innovations in gaming is locked within one of the worst publishers. So if you're a AAA game or a AA...
And it's so frustrating.
What if you're an indie, though? Well, will a publisher pick you up and fund you, knowing that an American megacorp could just attack
No.
you? And even if you're a self-funded indie, well, what are the chances that you drop your trailer after working in secret for 2 years, your trailer catches on, and just before release?
Yeah, no, it's really sad because the only way that a game can like really exist in this kind of form is like almost through guerrilla warfare at this point, right? Like you would have to make the game totally in secret, and then when you're ready for release, you would have to like somehow distribute the game in tons of places based all sourced from outside of the US. You would just need to basically dump a bunch of websites and then dump a bunch of links to all of those websites and try and create like a viral sensation for like a viral marketing campaign, and then have people download the game, and at that point it would have to be free because how do you charge for that? Right? And so it's really sad because quite literally the only way a new game could be created with the Nemesis system would be like that. You would quite literally have to like create a culture of almost pirating for your own game. Like you would have to set up torrent networks for your own game in order to enable people to play and to protect yourself from legal repercussions.
Please, you get served with something by Warner Bros. And even worse, this chilling effect means that we're not seeing...
And you've got to keep in mind that even if you think that you can win the lawsuit, there are many cases where when you win, you still lose.
Exactly.
Where the amount of money and time and just like mental, like just energy that you're spending on this, just everything, right?
Exactly.
Like,
even in the case of Palworld and Pocket Pair, right? Like Pocket Pair is an indie company, but they're not like a tiny company. Like I'm pretty sure they have... How many employees does Pocket Pair have? Yeah, 55 employees. So like they're not like a tiny 2-person studio, but it's still... That's still so much pressure. Nintendo probably has more than 55 people in their legal department. Like, that's unimaginable to have to go up against.
Assume you've got all the money in the world. You've got all the money in the world. Think about just like the mental stress that something like that creates.
Yeah, let's assume that every single person on Pocket Pair is devoted to this equally. So all of the work that they have to do for this litigation is all split up amongst all 55. That doesn't make any sense, and that would never happen. But for the sake of the argument, let's say that's happening. And then let's say they have 10 lawyers on top of that. That's also probably not happening, but for the sake of the argument, let's say it is. So you have 65 people working 100% of their time. Not keep in mind, when they're working 100% of the time, that means the game is currently at 0 development progress. So the game is not being developed at all right now. And now you have what, like 3, 4, 5 years of litigation, and you're still going like 65 against like possibly hundreds of people, right? And billions of dollars. Like that's so unimaginable to have to face off against.
It's gone. Well, that's the problem, is that patents are made so people can benefit from innovation, but they're also made so people can benefit from preventing other people's innovation. And like, I feel like you have to have them, but there are clearly some of these examples that are too overreaching and too overarching.
Yeah.
Nintendo and lawsuits go together like cereal and milk. Nintendo and lawsuits go together like cereal and milk. They are no stranger to dishing out lawsuits. They would sue an 8-year-old if they found out that their grandmother made them a Mario nightlight. They've been this way for years, so it's no surprise that they're suing Palworld. I'm actually surprised it took them this long.
Yeah, me
For a
too.
while, I thought it maybe wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, that was actually my exact thought. I thought it was either going to happen like in the first month or two of the game's existing, and then when it didn't happen, I thought that meant it wasn't going to. Clearly, they always wanted to, and they just had to dig really, really deep to find something. Well, thank you everybody so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more. Let me know down below what you think of this situation, who you're rooting for. I mean, there's not really sides here. It's kind of corporations or the gaming industry, and so there's really only one side that you should be on. But let me know who you think is going to win, what you think is going to happen, and I will see you next time.